gentlemen, welcome to Retro Warriors episode 484. Woo! As always, I'm your host, Justin Baker, and as always, I'm joined by viable human Chris Saturn.
Your voice cracked a little bit on that intro.
It did a little. There, it's been 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Since I recorded, and I don't actually know it hasn't. I recorded last week.
You
I think
record
an
things
extra
all the
episode
time.
the week. I do. I record a lot. It's a lot of
Yeah.
recordings. I think I just don't care. I'm like, everyone knows how I sound.
Yeah.
They know my voice
Yeah,
cracks.
they figured it
and,
out. It's been 10 years.
One day I'll finish puberty and it'll quit doing it, right? Is that how?
Right
Is that how
after
that
I
works?
do. It'll be fine.
Any minute now.
I'm 41 years old, and last week I suddenly got a damn pimple on my face for the first time in like 20 years.
Oh yeah.
And it hurt like a son of a bitch. And I was like, how did I deal with this as a teenager?
My wife gets acne and she's like, I'm a fucking grown up. Why does this happen to me? And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Apparently it's just bullshit. So
Yeah. Some bullshit.
I don't know what to tell you. We don't have any housekeeping. It feels like we
Yay.
should, but nope. Saturn
was it all
here.
covered in the week that I destroyed my recording? Was that when the housekeeping happened?
Yeah, it all happened there. I'll say this, that recovery episode, I don't want to do it every week, but it was fun to do, to just
good.
last minute, like, let's slap some shit out there.
I'm glad it worked because I felt so bad. I felt so dumb.
I think it did. No, it was good. It was bound to happen to one of us. It just happened to happen to you, know. It's just, there's been moments where like I'll put my SD card in my computer and it won't read or something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh shit, it happened,
Right.
So it was going to happen eventually. It happened on the old shows, our previous podcasts, several times.
Oh yeah.
So
Well, we were less professional then.
I don't know that we're more professional now. But yeah. So welcome back.
Yay.
I don't know. We still have my recording. I don't know what we'll ever do with that. Maybe I can convince Andrew to just sit and respond to it, pretend to be you for an hour, and we'll try to reconstruct the episode. I did think about this. On my recording, you can just barely hear you coming through my headphones on the mic with the noise gate off, and I was like, maybe we can somehow salvage. And I was like, no, we'll just fucking re-record. It's only an hour. We can do it.
We'll ask Google Gemini to recreate it based on that.
I'll say this. Sometimes we do episodes like, you never really know how an episode's going to go. Sometimes we do one and I will finish it and I'll be like, that was okay. Or sometimes it'll feel like it was really good. How I feel about it is never reflected by how people feel about it.
True, yeah.
But that was one where I finished it and I was like, it was fine. It was okay. Well, it wasn't stellar, but it was, it was a solid showing. And so between those two, and that was the one that got destroyed, I was like, eh.
It's fair.
And so yeah, thanks to Andrew for coming in last minute on a work night. I was out shopping with my family, like at a store when we realized that we didn't have your audio and your audio was gone.
Oof.
And I had to like rush home and do a show.
Yeah, I had mentioned it on the pre-show, I think, or maybe it was just before we started recording the pre-show, but like I had, a water disaster at my home the last couple of weeks, and they were coming out to replace the carpet, and they basically gave me less than 1 hour notice to get all of the
Empty a
furniture
room.
out of my bedroom while I was trying to sleep.
Yeah.
And so I had, quickly powered everything off, disconnected everything, taken my entire desk apart and moved it all over my home. And then that was, I think it was that night after I woke up was when you had messaged me and been like, hey, where's your show? And I was like, oh, fuck. And so I had just powered off my machine and everything, apparently with the recording still up and not having properly saved it or anything.
Yeah.
Which sucks. I felt so bad.
Yeah. It's I don't know. That just sucks in general altogether.
But we're here now.
We are here now. My week.
Yeah.
I've been playing a game. I just picked it up. Actually, I didn't even pick it up. I got the demo. It's called Diceomancer. And Diceomancer is a game. So I'm trying to think of like how to explain it in the context of other games. It is Slay the Spire, but with more resource management, an FTL style map where there's a force chasing behind you that accelerates, so you have to kind of watch your pathing so you don't get caught in it.
Okay.
And then it's got kind of some like dicey kind of meta stuff on top of it, is how I would explain it. So it is like a Slay the Spire style deck building, card accruing, fight monsters kind of thing. But the animation is insanely cute. It's all first person.
Nice.
And all of the monsters that you're fighting and everything are everything's very cutely animated in this kind of cartoony, almost like kind of like colored pencil-esque kind of art.
Okay.
And I'm playing through it and I'm like, this is pretty cool. It's got different resources and stuff. So cards will be different colors, and sometimes you need matching resource points to use those colored cards, and you get those resource points by kind of tossing away cards that match that color. And you'll usually have 2 colors in your deck, so there's a little bit of strategy there, which I like, that kind of resource management thing going on.
Right.
And then the game got real wild. I played a card where it let me change a number to a 6-sided die. So basically, you pick any number, and you can change that. You'll roll a 6-sided die, and that number will change to that number that you rolled on the die. And when you play that card, you can pick any number on your screen. You can pick the enemy's health total. If they had 50 points, well, now they have a D6 of health. You can permanently change the attack values of other cards. You can change how much maximum health you have. You can change how many cards are in your deck. You can change anything.
Nice.
And that's just what this one specific color in the game does, this purple color, which, as far as I am in the demo, it makes me pick it.
Yeah.
But it's kind of this weird, like, meta manipulation of the game where you're doing weird shit. And all the cards in that color are all this weird stuff like that.
Yeah.
And there seems to be a little bit of a narrative that has to do with some girl that's, like, popping through dimensions to help you. But I picked up the demo just because it's stupid cute. It's so cute. Technically, it's a little jank. Like, it doesn't support my resolution, and there's some kind of weird stuff there. But it's fun as heck. It's real fun. There's meta progression, kind of roguelike style. So whenever you finish a run, it's not like Slay the Spire where you're going kind of back to zero. You can unlock different things, unlock different cards. Although I guess Slay the Spire had some progression. It was just so many hours ago that I kind of forgot about it. But there's like a tech tree where you can sort of unlock different talents within, your favorite colors of cards. It's just really cool. And it was made by some like weird developer called like Oinky Piggy or something like that. I'd never heard of it, and it just popped up on my Steam recommendations, and I picked up the demo. I played that all afternoon. Nice. And I guess I'm going to have to buy it. I have no choice. Saturn.
Yeah, there's nothing else you can do.
Nothing else I can do. But yeah, it's been real fun. I'm always on the lookout for that little. So I don't know why someone said this in the Discord, and they were talking about some game, and then they're like, "Oh, could this be the third game in the trifecta of Balatro, Vampire Survivors, and then a third game?"
Yeah.
And ever since they said that, in my head, I've kind of been secretly being like, "What would be the third game in that trifecta?" And so. It's a totally arbitrary, like it could be 4 games or 10 games or 2 games or, but for whatever reason, I feel the urge to like complete this set of 3. Realistically, it probably would be Slay the Spire.
Yeah.
But I'm always going through indie games, and every time I play something like this and I really click with it, I'm like, could this be the third game in the trifecta? I don't know why. Anyway, that's kind of I've it's been busy for me, so that's sort of all I've really been doing. What have you been doing?
We I think I talked about Zelda on the last time that we recorded, right?
Yes.
So
I think no. Maybe I don't remember it.
I think
was that the recording we lost?
No, I think it was the one that we didn't lose. I had talked about the new Zelda came out.
I don't remember you talking about it because I don't remember how you feel about it.
I'm confused now because I was looking at the notes, and the game you were talking about is on the next episode's notes and not on this episode's notes.
Oh yeah, I flip-flopped. I'm sorry.
Okay, good. I got disoriented. So yeah, the new Zelda came out. It is solid. It's got uh so it's got the same frame rate issues that Link's Awakening does, where it will dip, especially when you're transitioning areas, and the worst is in the starting area. But once you get past that, honestly, it gets to be fine. I had tried to play it on my PC instead through an emulator, just to alleviate the issues. But my emulator couldn't pass video through to my Steam Link to my TV, and that was too frustrating to me. So I decided, fuck it, I'd just play it on my Switch where it works.
Yeah.
So I'm doing that, and I did finish the game Tuesday. It's a couple days ago now. I finished the game, and it was fine. The ending felt a little anticlimactic. I actually recovered more health than I took during the final boss, because it'll occasionally drop hearts. Which feels like not what a final boss should do, but whatever.
Yeah.
But other than that, it was fine. I enjoyed the game well enough. The
2D Zelda review from you, and it's fine.
Yeah, I would say that it does not at all stack up to A Link Between Worlds. It doesn't come close to that. It definitely feels like it was built off of Link's Awakening, the remake.
Yeah.
It does have a lot of the same like enemies and stuff that are exclusive to Link's Awakening that didn't show up in other games in the series.
I see. So it's probably. I mean, all signs seem to point to it being the same engine.
Oh yeah. It almost certainly is the same engine.
Yeah.
It is cute. It is broken in some ways because I still haven't gotten to Tears of the Kingdom yet, so I can't say firsthand. But from what I have heard, there are some parts of Tears of the Kingdom that you can basically break for yourself just by building the correct things.
Yeah.
And that is definitely still the case here, because you've played Link's Awakening plenty of times, so
I have indeed. Yeah.
You know the 2D sections. Occasionally there are those thwomp-like enemies. Well, you can learn that as an echo to just create wherever you want.
Okay.
And if you just build them on the overworld, you can use them as ladders to just get anywhere you want. Nothing on the overworld is locked to you anymore. You just use a thwomp to get around it. And that's cute. And I appreciate that. But the game is also kind of built around that, in that there is no specific sequence. There are some areas that you can't play until after you've done the first areas, but they just block it off by having like arbitrary NPCs there, like, oh, you can't go this way yet.
Yeah.
And just blocking a cave or whatever. But other than that, it's fine. I wouldn't say that it's exceptional, but I enjoyed it enough to play through to the end, and I got all the heart pieces, and I got all the stuff in there. If anything, my complaint is that it's just a little too easy.
Yeah. It seemed like they were kind of like, I don't ever want to be that guy. But I got the feeling that they were sort of like, oh, it's, kind of more like a younger kid-oriented introduction to Zelda and search action as an idea.
It did kind of feel that way.
Kind of,
I wouldn't normally classify Zelda as a search action-y game.
This one kind of seemed like it was. Does it not kind of play out like one?
No, it still plays like a traditional Zelda. There are dungeons. Okay. You play through dungeons.
Okay. So the actual formula is still very the same.
Oh yeah. You just
have a different way to go about it.
Instead of it being like, these are the 8 dungeons, you go through these 8 dungeons in order. It's like, here's 3 dungeons you can do, and then you finish them. It's like, here's 3 more dungeons you can do.
Yeah. I was going to pick it up, and then I looked, and I have 5 Switch games on my shelf still in the shrink, and I was like, I think I need to quit buying Switch games.
That's fair.
I think I've got enough, and this one ain't going anywhere, so
yeah.
Not too worried about it. Let's do the news.
Yeah.
First up, Arika has announced a new Tetris the Grandmaster game.
Yes.
Which has excited Tetris people.
Yeah.
I've played Grandmaster. I don't remember loving it. I remember liking it.
I don't dislike them. They're a little too hardcore Tetris for me.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where I landed on it.
But they're fine. I still appreciate the flavor that Tetris the Grandmaster goes for. It does feel a very different variety than most Tetris.
Valve has announced an initiative to put more development into Arch Linux, which is really exciting on the one hand, and, a little, I don't know, real hardcore Linux people, they don't like any corporation being anywhere near any of their distros. But I think we're kind of past that and have been for a number of years now.
I mean, a lot of corporations have been heavily donating to the core kernel for decades now. So
we're very far past that, and I'm excited at the idea of like a Valve assisted premier gaming distro for Linux. I think it's something Linux really needs. I mean, there's a distro out there for everything under the sun, except gaming.
I mean, there are some gaming distros. There's Pop! OS and Garuda and stuff like that.
Yeah, I guess I forgot about those. But still, having one that has Valve's direct assistance, I think is an exciting prospect.
Yeah.
I've kind of been kicking around the idea of going back to Linux as my main desktop OS, and so I think what I'm going to do is give this like a year to sort of mature a little bit, and then maybe jump back in.
I am so desperately trying to switch everything to Linux as my main OS, and I hit a stumbling block that has frustrated me. But I'll talk about that on the next episode.
Is it no Clippy?
Yeah, no, it's the lack of Clippy. It's just killing it for me.
How could they?
I don't know.
A PS5 update, quote, accidentally replaced game homepages with, quote, news and advertisements.
Yep.
Oops, we accidentally intentionally redesigned your home screen. Oopsie doopsie. Oh, you're upset. Never mind. It has since been rolled back. I'm so fucking sick to death. Like, here's the thing. Corporations, just be like, we own you. We own everything that you think you own, and we're going to do whatever we want. We're going to shove it down your throat, whether you want it or not. And if it doesn't work now, we're just going to wait a year and do it again. Just say that, because we know you're fucking doing it.
And it's frustrating because, and somebody had pointed out in the Discord that Microsoft does the full page advertisements when you first turn on the Xbox now.
Yeah.
And they don't do them often. I think I've seen like 3 since they started it a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But that's also frustrating. But this was like permanently on the screen whenever you select the game.
Well, plus Microsoft's whole deal is they're like, we're the pay us a monthly fee, get an Xbox on layaway cheapo console.
Right.
I mean, it kind of ends up being still expensive, but that's how they want to build themselves. Sony's whole thing is they're like, we are the premier, single player gaming high-end experience, and you're slapping ads on it. Like, it just feels
the ads that it was doing, it reminds me of the Google TV ads, how like on the home screen of your Google TV or Chromecast or Android TV or whatever you have, it'll have like the whole top half of the home screen is just advertisement, and then your options are underneath it. That's basically what the PS5 one was like.
Yeah, I'm just every night, my daughter has an electric toothbrush, and it's got a timer. It's a Sonicare. So you go for 2 minutes, right? And every 30 seconds it buzzes to tell you to go to the next section.
Yeah.
And I found out that she was shortcutting and not brushing her teeth for the full amount of time. And so now every night I ask her, I go, did you cheat on your toothbrushing? And every night, she'll answer me. And I can tell when she's lying because, she's 8.
Yeah.
This is what it feels like with Sony. I'm like, Sony, nobody is fucking falling for it, dude. We know you did this on purpose to test the waters. We know a year from now you're just gonna fucking do it.
Now, now I will give it this. Those full screen ads and everything were already baked into the PS5 and are still there after they rolled it back. It's just not the home screen for the game. So after you get to the home screen, you hit down and it'll give you the option to get to the quote news and stuff. That's what they had replaced it with. So there is a chance it was a mistake. I'm not going to give them any credit, but I will acknowledge there is a chance they didn't mean to make it the home screen, because the home screen is like this dedicated wallpaper and everything.
I will not acknowledge it.
Rid of that dedicated wallpaper feels like a slap in the face of the actual devs of these games, but it still sucked.
So they were either malicious or stupid.
Yes.
Like those are their only two choices.
Yes.
Well, I will not acknowledge that, thus canceling out your acknowledgement. So it ends up perfectly. Square Enix is making tiny die-cast miniatures of the Genesis, Saturn, and Dreamcast. I don't know why, but neat.
Yeah, well, Square Enix, specifically through their subdivision Taito, which used to be a separate company, has often made little die-cast miniatures they put in UFO catchers and stuff. And
That's cool.
So this is just following that chain. It's just, I think the reason why this got some traction in the news was because neither Square nor NX made games for the Genesis or Dreamcast, and NX only made a handful of games for the Saturn.
Yeah, it seems a little odd.
Yeah,
it's a little odd, but I'm down for them. They look really cute.
They're cute.
I don't know if we're gonna be able to fucking get them over here in the
Probably
States,
not,
but man, they sure are.
They're
they sure are cute looking.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm excited about
Right.
that. Nintendo used a DMCA takedown request to a YouTube channel showing Wii U and 3DS emulation on handheld devices. Get ready, all of you tech reviewers that are reviewing every single emulation handheld coming out of China lately.
Yep.
Because Nintendo's coming for you.
Yeah, apparently, as long as it is Wii U or 3DS emulation, they think they have ground to stand on, which is concerning to me.
Yeah, well, what's even more concerning is that apparently YouTube is unmanned and has been for years, and all of these automatic processes are just in favor of corporations, and nobody's actually looking at anything, so that sucks.
From what I was reading, it is based on Nintendo's now ownership of the Citra emulator that they can issue the takedown. I don't know how they're applying it to the Wii U, though, and that is worrying to me. I'm curious to see how that would actually fly in a court.
That's the problem. Someone's got to be able to
to
financially ruin themselves to take them to court.
Yeah, and somebody said that they are doing so right now. I don't remember who it was, but somebody claims they are actually pushing back against Nintendo now.
Kudos to them for risking so much for something that is at the end of the day,
moral.
Not good on them.
Yeah.
PSN went down for about a day, reminding people that your single-player offline purchases may be unplayable when you're offline. Hey, guess what? You don't own anything.
Nope.
Nobody owns any of this shit. Even that physical cartridge you own, you still don't own it. They just can't stop you or take it away from you most of the time, depending on the title in question.
Yeah, it turned out that during the PSN outage, you could not play digital purchases unless you had set up your PS5 as your home console, which most people have, so that's fine.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But if you own multiple PlayStations, like say a PS4 and a PS5, you might not have been able to play some or all of your downloaded, purchased digital games on your PlayStation device.
It happened to me back when we had the cold snap. I don't remember how, but for some reason, my Xbox wasn't set as my home Xbox, and for a whole week, I couldn't play Xbox games at all.
Yeah.
Because I had some configuration goofed up somewhere.
Now, if you have the actual discs, then you'd put those in there, fine. But
all my discs were 360 and original Xbox games.
Oh yeah, those are not fine.
Yeah, they're not fine. They don't work.
Yeah, you have to download
the
full.
You got to download the shit.
Yeah.
Frustrating. Some of Ubisoft's shareholders are pushing to sell the company after Star Wars Outlaws didn't make all the money in the universe.
Yeah. Also,
you know how
because,
every game
Assassin's Creed was delayed, so they did not make all the money this quarter. Better sell the entire company.
Right. Fuck it all.
Yeah.
Tencent and the family of Yves Guillemot are considering buying out the shareholders and taking the company private.
You didn't call him Beavis this time.
I didn't call him Beavis Jimbo. Yeah. That's what I had called him before. And I think I said, I'll learn his name when he stops being an asshole. But yeah, old Beavis Jimbo is considering buying out the shareholders and taking the company private.
Alongside
we'll see.
Tencent.
Ubisoft's monetization director says players and critics who have spoken out against Ubisoft are, quote, clearly non-decent. Now, let me be clear. I don't think I'm decent.
Yeah.
Pretty sure I'm what would be classified as an indecent human.
Yeah.
But he doesn't need to say it. I don't fucking need to hear it from him, Beavis Jimbo's friend over here.
I know this is a deep cut reference that literally no one at all will recognize, but there was a sequel movie made to the Rocky Horror Picture Show by its original author. It's a shitty movie called Shock Treatment. It has nothing to do with the Rocky Horror Picture Show,
Yeah.
The entire premise of it is that the town of Denton is, in fact, a television studio. And so all of the people in Denton are different shows, programs that air on this television station. And one of the characters is a blind game show host who is an idiot. And he is trying to find one of the main characters, and he is knocking on her dressing room door because that's what your homes are, is dressing rooms. And he's saying, are you decent? And he has a bad fake accent. He's like, Janet, are you decent, Janet? And when I read this news story, I just imagined the monetization director for Ubisoft, like, players, are you decent now? And for some reason, that was what went through my head when I was reading this, and now I had
that
to
was
share it
so
with everyone.
highly specific.
I had
The
to
one
force
person that
everyone
got that
else.
reference, you're welcome. Welcome.
Yep.
Ryujinx, the other Switch emulator, has been hit with legal action by Nintendo and is shutting down immediately.
This is where we are with emulation in 2024. Is corporations just strong-arming them to death?
Yeah, well, Nintendo is.
Yes. Well, we don't have any
so-
current emulators for the PS4, PS5, or Xbox
True.
One yet, so we don't know
True.
if it's just Nintendo.
It's fucking stupid. Anyway, a new emulator named Sudachi has been announced that supposedly avoids the legal pitfalls of the other two. We'll see if that actually ends up being the case. I think Nintendo, anyone starting a new project is just painting a legal target on their back.
Yes.
And I said this in the chat, and I'll repeat it here. I wouldn't blame anyone who does not want to stand up to the full legal brunt of a massive international corporation like Nintendo.
Yeah.
Because even if you win, it would fucking ruin you.
Yeah, it would devastate your life. At the best case scenario.
And I don't think any emulator is worth it. And it's frustrating that they're able to just kind of stomp around the schoolyard like this, and sort of do whatever they want.
Right.
So it's I think it's all of our hopes that one day they'll piss off the wrong person who will stand up to them.
Right.
As long as it's not Tim Sweeney, please. Anyone else stand up to these companies? Anyone?
You've done enough, Tim.
Just I don't I shouldn't say anyone else because then it's gonna be like fucking Elon Musk or
God.
someone. Just someone that's not please.
Already. Which
brings us to our topic at hand.
Does it?
Yeah. Which is Mascot Platformer Bootcamp.
Okay. Yeah.
Just a mouthful.
Yes.
We haven't done a Bootcamp episode in a little while. Basically, we kind of talk about
In
the
years,
genre.
actually. I looked it up. It had been years.
Years?
Yeah. It'd been a
Oh
while.
my God. The original idea behind the Bootcamp episodes was we kind of talk about a genre that maybe you haven't played. We give you sort of some history behind it, define the genre a little bit, and then just talk about some games that you may or may not play, stuff you may or may not avoid, and just kind of, give it the old what for. Is that what that means?
Give it the old what for, Justin.
For synopsis, Saturn wrote, "Are you looking for baby games for baby gamers? Or a cool, snarky bad dude, but not those bad dudes? Then have we got the oddly anthropomorphized heroes for you." As far as first encounters, I played some Mascot platforms. I played a lot of platformers in general. I mean, they were one of the primary genres in kind of the 8 and 16-bit era.
Right.
But a lot of the more notable, like, I was trying to think of how to describe these, the like hokey Mascot platformers, the ones that are very clearly made, and we're going to talk more about this, to cash in on Mascot platformers.
Right.
Kind of passed me by. I played a ton of Nintendo.
Yeah.
I play, by extension, I played a ton of Mario, and that was just kind of the Mascot platformer of choice for me. And a lot of the other ones I kind of missed. And then we went right into the N64 era when I was like 10. And so there
they
was
transitioned into collect-on Mascot platformers.
Yeah, everything was a collectathon. It was like, what if Banjo was a gecko? What if Banjo was a glove? What if Banjo was a bee? Yeah. And that's just kind of the life I lived.
Now, it becomes a question of how different are those genres really? Because a lot of the later Mascot platformers were also collectathons.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, and it's it's kind of getting ahead of ourselves a little bit here, but there's this idea that like in collectathons, you are often playing mascot characters,
Yep.
and you are often platforming, but I think I don't know, it's tough, man. It's real tough. Like, are they just the 3D version of that?
Yeah.
Kinda.
I think they are.
I feel like a lot of the times, for me, if I were to try to differentiate, and this is me kind of stretching, for collectathons, the point is to collect the things.
Right.
You're there to collect the things, and I feel like a lot of mascot platformers, they would like you to collect the things.
Yeah, a traditional platformer is all about reaching the end. It is reaching the goal.
It's overcoming the challenge.
Yeah.
You don't have to get all of the letters in Donkey Kong.
Right. That's why I always felt like Mario 64 felt like a different genre, because it wasn't just about reaching the goal. It was about completing an objective. And so it felt like a different genre.
So I think diversifying those objectives is what collectathons did, and I think that's why they're different. Although you often are still a mascot character doing platforming to achieve these objectives.
True.
So it's a fuzzy line, I think. Let's do your first encounters, and then we're going to get into precise delineations.
Well, it's hard to say because the genre has been around forever, basically since there's been video games. But I will say that for people who are younger, you might not have seen the evolution of how all these different genres and everything happened. It used to be that whenever there was a successful game, there was a million tag-alongs. Like everybody had to clone it immediately. I feel like that's started to fade a little bit because now everybody just makes Ubisoft open world games and first-person shooters, and that's all anyone makes ever anymore.
Yeah.
And
hentai games.
And hentai games, yes, of course. So. But back in the day, you had there was a successful platformer. Everything has to be a platformer. There was a successful shmup. Everything has to be a shmup. There was a successful fighting game, and everything had to be a fighting game. And so there was that definitive era of 80s, 90s mascot platformers where everything was a mascot platformer for a while. Yeah. And I feel like that's where the brunt of what we're going to be looking at is.
Yeah. So let's begin the delineation process.
Okay.
Because this is kind of one of those genres that is often defined by what doesn't fit than what does fit.
Right.
Which is sort of backwards from how we normally define genres,
Yeah.
So like, is Mega Man a mascot platformer? He's definitely, or at least used to be, Capcom's mascot, and he does a lot of platforming.
Clearly, Captain Commando is Capcom's mascot.
Oh, no.
Now, I always considered Mega Man more of a platform run and gun. Instead of just a platformer. So anything that feels like it is not a pure platformer, I don't consider it a mascot platformer.
What about, and this is an interesting one for me, because what I did is I was like, all right, how do other people delineate? And I just Googled like, top whatever mascot platformers and read a bunch of AI generated garbage to see what all lists people had. And there were some extremely diverse lists of like, these aren't even all the same genre.
Right.
What about Kirby? Because I see Kirby on these lists a lot. And for whatever reason, to me, Kirby doesn't feel like a platformer. Like there's something that feels different about it. I guess so, yeah.
There's
you can just kind of float over any old obstacle.
Yeah, it still feels like a platformer to me. Like if I had to define Kirby, I would call it a platformer. But yeah, I can see where you're coming from. But I would lump Kirby into the genre. Yeah,
I feel like for me, a sticking point for mascot platformers is that most of the game should be traversed by the character running and jumping.
Yeah.
Rather than using various, power-ups and ability. Like in Mario, you get a fire flower every once in a while, but you're not spending most of the game. I guess if you're really good, you probably do. But eventually Mario reverts to his natural state.
I get angry every time he reverts to his natural state. I will restart a level if I get hit. That's just how I am.
Let's talk platformers in general.
Yeah.
So what differentiates a platformer from other genres? Because this is even just platformers is really fuzzy.
Yeah.
Um, it I mean, you kind of touched on it earlier. It's emphasis on getting through the level, navigating the level.
Yeah, for me, if my objective is to take out enemies or to collect a thing and not to just reach a goal, it doesn't feel that much like a platformer to me. It feels like a game with platform elements, but it doesn't feel like your traditional platformer.
Right. Okay. All right. What specifically then makes a platformer become a mascot platformer for you? Because I have an answer, but I want to know what yours is.
So for me, it's how marketable or hopefully marketable the character or the world is. Like if it is clear that they built this up with the expectations that someday someone will make a Saturday morning cartoon out of it.
Yeah, that it is a thing. Yeah,
then it is definitively a mascot platformer. If it is just like generic video game character man, then probably not.
This is where I think it gets really weird because I agree. I think there's stuff where it's like, clearly they wanted Bubsy to be a thing and have lunchboxes and cereal and cartoons, and it just didn't work out because of reasons we'll talk about soon.
And also, don't try to watch the pilot of the Bubsy cartoon.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's out there. It leaked. It's bad. It's real bad.
So, these are characters that are made to start a franchise. And I know that now you're like, well, yeah, everything is supposed to be a franchise and a cinematic universe. Right. And no. Back in the day, companies would just make a thing and we'd be like, oh, that's a cool thing.
And then never revisit it.
maybe later, years later, they'd be like, we should make another of thing.
Yeah.
But
or
there
months
were
later if it's Capcom.
Yeah, there were plenty of things that just kind of got to exist, and you're just like, oh, that was cool. And they're like, yeah, that was cool. Anyway.
Yeah.
And so I feel like now everything ever made has to be part of a cinematic universe, a brand. Everything is a brand now. Yeah. Every character is a brand, and so it's just a little different now.
Yeah.
But it is there's this intentionality of like, why is this character being created? Why is Bubsy this weird cartoon cat? He doesn't really do anything other than jump on top of enemies. I mean, that's not new.
He stops the woolies, Justin.
It's not interesting, it's just the same as Cool Spot. It's the same as Chester Cheetah. It's the same as all these other characters that just kind of run and jump and look like a brand on the screen.
But he has an attitude, Justin.
But what gets real tricky is that became kind of a staple in gaming.
Yeah.
And then later on, we would get games that are emulating that mascot platformer style, but kind of aren't really intended or, at least don't have the corporate weight behind them to try to become a brand.
Right.
They're just kind of aping this sort of, meta narrative of this is a mascot character, right? Yeah. Which is, it gets kind of weird and navel-gazy, years later. But then you also get stuff where, like, one that I like is Battletoads, which was clearly supposed to be mascot characters. They weren't in a platformer, so you had mascot other genres.
True, yeah.
Which was interesting. For people that have never seen it, there was indeed a Battletoads cartoon. I had it on VHS.
Oh.
Don't watch it.
Yeah.
Don't watch it.
Yeah, it's not good.
I didn't know there wasn't more of the show. I assumed there was more, and we just didn't have the tapes, and I could never find it on TV.
I think it aired for one season. I remember right.
No, I think they only made one episode.
Oh, did they?
I believe so. I would have to double check, but I'm pretty sure they only made the one episode.
I thought I had remembered it getting announced for Saturday morning thing or whatever.
I could be wrong. I'd have to go check old TV guides.
Right.
Anyway, so I feel like we've come to the end of the definition part of the show, and we don't really have any better of a definition than when we started. But basically, platformers in which there seems to be a brand intentionality behind the character.
Yeah. Oh, it was just a pilot for Battletoads. My bad.
Yeah. I thought so, but I had that tape, and I just assumed, when you're a kid, you don't have Wikipedia or anything, so I'm like, I guess they made this show and it never aired. I never got to see it airing, and I hope it does reruns one day.
That's how it was with the X-Men cartoon, the original X-Men cartoon. I was like, I wish I could have seen the rest of this series, and it just didn't exist.
So we kind of broke these out into sections, subgenres, because a mascot, and this is why it feels weird, is a mascot can be a mascot for different stuff.
Yeah.
And so you get different types of mascot platformers. Let's start with the console mascots.
Yeah.
Here. Obviously, the most famous, probably the most successful, is Mario.
Right.
He is Nintendo's evergreen, perpetual mascot. He is as much Nintendo as the Nintendo logo is Nintendo.
Right.
I think Nintendo's also really good about making, they're extremely protective of their first party stuff. So their brand has always felt really strong to begin with.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Mario is not only a lot of people's first encounter with this, but also a game that I think a lot of people don't think of as a mascot platformer.
Right. Because it's just a Mario game.
Right. It has transcended genre. It's like, no, it's just Mario.
And,
it just
and some of the Mario games don't feel like mascot platformers. Like I mentioned, Mario 64 feels a little different.
Yeah.
And obviously there's so many different Mario spin-off games, Mario Kart, Mario Party, and all that. Obviously not platformers. Yeah. So I can see how people could somehow miss that it is the most obvious example, but so many of the other games are clearly trying to follow Mario's style and popularity. So you have to include it.
We have Disc-kun.
And I included Disc-kun because I am upset that he never got a platforming game.
Who was the little Famicom cartoon disc man.
Yeah, the Famicom Disc System mascot.
Yeah. Never got a game, but was a mascot.
Like, he was on screen in some games, and that's great, but I'm upset that he never got a platformer because that would have been adorable.
We have Sega's here with Alex Kidd and then later Sonic.
Yeah.
Which both of which are, very much by definition mascot platformers. They were first party games featuring mascots for their respective systems that was, trying to push systems. TurboGrafx 16 had Bonk, which was very much their premier character. And he had 3 games on, well, really more than 3 if you count the Zonks, although I don't know if that's technically the same creature or not.
Right, yeah. He looks the same, but he stops being a platformer.
You have Crash Bandicoot, which I don't consider it a platformer.
I feel like it is platformy.
And I know this is a genre that didn't exist until later, but I didn't play Crash until I was a grown adult. It's an auto runner. Like, it's just an auto runner. That's different. That's a different.
I don't know that it always feels like an auto runner. There are times when it feels more like platforming.
Spyro also kind of
more collectathon-y.
More collectathon-y, but was definitely a mascot for PlayStation a little bit. You saw Crash and Spyro.
Despite Crash and Spyro never being owned by PlayStation.
Yeah. And then you put Blinks of the Time Sweeper on this list. I'm not sure why. That's also, I only played a little bit of it, but isn't also kind of a collectathon?
It does feel more like a collectathon. But I always insist that Blinks is the official mascot of Xbox to this day. He is. They wanted him, they get him.
It's not Mr. Halo, it's Blinks the Time Sweeper.
No, it is Blinks the Time Sweeper.
There were lots and lots and lots of mascot platformers that were licensed.
I will say the reason I include Blinks is because the intention when Blinks was created was clearly to be the Mario of Xbox.
Right. We want a Mario. We want a, at the time, Sly Cooper.
Or Sonic or whatever. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Did not work out, mostly because the game kind of sucks.
Yes.
But
and the character is unlikable.
It has some cool ideas. He's a little dead-eyed. Blinks is.
Yeah.
A little dead looking in the face.
Yeah.
Licensed games are another hotbed of this. So many licensed games. All of the Looney Tunes got licensed games. There's lots and lots and lots of Mickey Mouse games. There's Donald Duck games. Really, just Disney in general has tons of
stuff. Like when you're going back to the 80s and 90s, really they would license anything.
Oh yeah.
You
for
had
sure.
Your comics like Garfield got things. Your movies like Ghostbusters. When you get outside of platforms, you have movies like Rambo and RoboCop that got children's games for some inexplicable reason.
Yeah.
So really they would license anything they could, and they made so many of these into platformers just because they didn't know what other genre to turn these movies or TV shows or comics or whatever into.
The one that gets me is always the Wayne's World game on, I think it was NES, and it's like you're just Wayne Campbell collecting music notes, like, fucking why?
Yeah, there was Super NES, there was Genesis, there was Game Boy. It was on everything.
What does that have to goddamn do with Wayne's World?
Well, that's the plot of the movie, Justin. Don't you remember?
It just makes no sense.
You just shoot people with a guitar.
He never even plays in a band in the movie.
No, that's the plot of the movie.
We're not even totally sure he knows how to. I mean,
air guitars, that counts, right?
No. Well, no, he does. He does buy that one guitar, and he plays that a little bit.
Yeah.
The one he purchases. Yeah.
No
anyway,
stairway.
Denied advertising characters. This one happened a lot.
Yes.
And this one is kind of this in the next category, or sort of the pure, in my mind, mascot platformers. They are made only
Certainly the
for
most interesting part of it.
Only for selling a brand. They exist to push a character. They exist to push a brand, and that's it. And they just slapped in the platforming bit.
Yeah.
And some of them are okay. So obviously we have Chester Cheetah, who had his own video game. We have the Cool Spot games, which is the red spot from 7-Up.
Only one of the games was called Cool Spot, and his name isn't Cool Spot.
What is his name?
Spot.
Well, why is he called Cool? Why don't they call him 7-Up Spot?
He's 7-Up Spot. He's
God damn it.
Only that one game was called Cool Spot. The word cool is not in any of the other games or media.
I only played Cool Spot on Super Nintendo.
Yeah, that's the second game.
I assumed they were all ports of the same fucking game.
No, the first.
What is the other game called?
The first game is just called Spot. It's on NES. It's not even a platformer. It's a puzzle game. And then Cool Spot was the second game. Then there was Spot Goes to Hollywood. And I want to say there was another one, but I don't remember it.
It's so weird. And this is, again, what I'm talking about, just pure mascot platformer.
Mm-hmm.
None of the Spot games are amazing.
No, they're all right.
They're all just sort of okay.
Yeah.
And, usually there will be a little coin, something analogous to coins in Mario that you'll pick up that's like soda cans or Cheetos or, whatever matches the brand.
Yeah,
and
you might be too young to remember the commercials with Spot, the 7-Up commercials.
I am too young to remember
because he would just peel himself off of the can and walk around.
Oh no, 7-Up won the lemon lime soda war by the time I was cognizant.
I see.
Or not 7-Up, Sprite. I mean,
Sprite.
Yeah, Sprite won. It was over. Sprite was the winner.
I mean, 7-Up still advertises from time to time.
We were all confused why Sprite even advertised, because we're like, Sprite wins. Why is it even? I mean, who's going to beat Sprite? Fucking Fresca? 7-Up? No.
Fresca and Sprite are the same company.
Are they?
Yeah,
I didn't know
both
that.
Coca-Cola.
Well, Sprite still wins.
Yeah.
You got there were McDonald's games.
Yep.
You got MC Kids.
Yep. Treasureland and
the Noid, which was Domino's.
Yep.
Got his own thing. There's the Pepsi Man Auto Runner. Which, if Crash counts as a mascot platformer, then Pepsi Man has to too, I guess.
Yeah, and the Pepsi Man was Japan exclusive, unfortunately.
And so this is sort of the advertising games, the ugly side of mascot platformers a lot of the time.
I question whether Zool fits here or in the next category.
That's true. Yeah.
Because
what do you
Zool
think?
really wanted to sell you some Chupa Chups.
Yeah, I forget that Zool was a Chupa Chups game, and then I go to play it, and I'm like, it's a licensed... Like, was the character used in Chupa Chups advertising?
I don't know. I don't think that I ever saw a Chupa Chups advertisement outside of Zool.
I haven't either. I mean, I don't fucking know.
Yeah. We'll have to ask people in Europe, because I think that's where the game was designed.
Yes. It was on Amiga. Was that the original version?
Was
Amiga?
on Amiga, yes.
So advertising mascot platformers are kind of the ugly side of mascot platformers for me. They're the low effort, the slap Chester Cheetah in a game, and he runs and jumps through a desert level collecting Cheetos and like that. It's sad. It's transparent. It's like, no. We do see some more originality in the next section, which is original characters hoping to be the big next big thing.
Yes.
And this is a lot of stuff. We got the Sparkster games.
The Sparkster games.
Sparkster had 2 games.
Yep.
Bubsy fits in this cat. Oh yeah, were there 3 Sparksters?
Technically 4 if you count the one on PS3 and Xbox.
Oh yeah, I guess I forget how many of those
there
made.
was the first one on Genesis, the second one on Genesis, and the one on Super NES.
You get Bubsy in this category, which I've had people tell me that Bubsy is actually an okay platformer.
They're wrong.
No, it isn't. That game fucking sucks.
No, it's not a good game. It has bad collision detection. You can't see enemies coming up because the screen scrolls in the worst possible way. It's not a good game.
Stuff like Jazz Jackrabbit would probably fit here.
I guess so, yeah.
We have Arrow the Acrobat.
Mm-hmm.
We have Zero the Kamikaze Squirrel. There were 2 Arrow the Acrobats.
Yeah. Well, isn't Zero the... Oh, that's true. There was Arrow 2, and Zero. Those are the 3 games in that series.
Oh, yeah, I guess I forget Zero was also in the same series.
Yeah, he was part of the Arrow cinematic universe.
Yeah, the Rayman games, which went on to a modicum of success.
Yeah.
And even had a little bit of a resurgence a few years ago with some of the newer Rayman games.
All right.
For the good ones are here. Legendary Starfy. I would probably, I don't know. I think of stuff like would we count Dynamite Heady as a Mascot platform?
Probably, yeah.
Would we there are things in this Plock. I've never played Plock.
Yeah, Plock is in there. Your what was the shit? I'm blanking on. There's so many on Genesis that
there's a
first
bunch.
party.
There's a bunch.
Yeah.
It almost felt like Sega liked Sonic, but they're like, maybe we can find someone else.
Right.
You get stuff like Booger Man fits in this category, a pick and flick adventure. There's a lot of stuff that fits here, and this is where a lot of the good games are. The stuff that they ended up making a good game, even though it didn't end up being the platform's mascot. Obviously, it was supposed to be a bigger thing than it was, and maybe we even got a few games out of it.
Would you consider Earthworm Jim part of this? Because I always considered that more of a run and gun.
For me, yeah, I don't lump Earthworm Jim. For me, I just don't like it to begin with.
Look,
but
yeah,
no,
it's
it's very
game.
much like there's a lot of shooting.
Yeah.
For me, running and jumping on things is very integral to the platforming experience. Once you're not mostly running and jumping on things, I start to feel a little bit like maybe this should be elsewhere.
Yeah, I always want to jump on or over things in a platformer. If I'm not doing that, it feels a little less platformery. Like Sparkster, I'll give him a pass, even though he stabs things, because really you can just fly over all the enemies, and that's fine.
Yeah. So that's kind of the categories. We've stepped you through the extremely broad and vague definition. Saturn, sell us as the platform enjoyer amongst the two of us.
Yeah.
Sell me on non-Mario, non-Sonic mascot platformers and what I should look for. Give me some good ones.
So, no. First of all, I'm not going to do that. No, it really depends on obviously opinion and taste and all that. But
sure,
some things you can look for to determine whether or not you're going to find a good one when you're just digging through ROM lists. Because let's be fair, it's the 21st century. We're not sitting at the store and carefully selecting a purchase here because most of these are not available for sale anymore.
Right.
For good reason. So. To help you avoid the bad ones and try to find the good ones, here's some of the rules that I have, and these are not set in stone, but it'll give you a starting point. So as far as good ones, even mediocre mascots or franchises or licenses can make a good game when it's in the right hands. Almost everything from Capcom and Konami in the 8-bit era were good, even when the characters were questionable. Stuff like Little Nemo or Bucky O'Hare or Zen the Intergalactic Ninja. These are not licenses you would have expected a good video game to come out of, but they're all pretty solid games.
Yeah.
As far as things to avoid, anything that is going for gross out points or trying to appeal to tweens and young teenagers.
I don't know why you're so hateful toward Booger Man. What did Booger Man ever do to you?
It's a bad game. And
how? Could you?
It's a bad game and a bad premise, and it was always a bad game and a bad premise.
I think as much as far as recommendations, as much as Mario is kind of the king in this category, I think the Genesis has a huge amount of contenders. We already mentioned Dynamite Heady, which if you haven't played is really fun. I always forget about, but very much enjoy Rystar.
Yeah, Rystar's a good one.
Rystar was a fucking blast. You've got all of the Sonic games, which are
there's some first party one with like I feel like it's another headless person that's a zombie or something.
Decap Attack.
That's the thing I keep trying.
Decap Attack's okay.
A little more actiony, but
it's not still. We did an episode on Decap Attack, didn't we? Yeah, and I came away being like, it's okay.
It's all right.
You got Sparkster on Genesis.
Yep.
The Genesis just has a lot of them. You do have some of the lesser ones. I mean, Cool Spot was ported.
Yep.
To Genesis, so that one exists there. But if you're really wanting like pure of the era Mascot platformers, kind of before they turned into collectathons, I think for variety, Genesis is kind of where it's at.
Another platform to look for is mobile or handheld rather. So Game Boy, Game Boy Advance. You're going to find some interesting ones that often flew under the radar, and sometimes you'll find ports of games that were a completely different genre on the big consoles have suddenly become a Mascot platformer on handheld, and that's pretty interesting.
It is weird, right?
Yeah,
very weird. I don't know. Like what Super Nintendo, it has some real stinkers on it in this category, like fucking Rocky Rodent. Or like a Punky Skunk was another one.
There was a Porky Pig one on Super NES that was okay.
There is I'm going to call it a Mascot platformer. I don't know how much of a franchise The Wizard of Oz was in the 90s, but I had the Wizard of Oz game on Super Nintendo, which what a piece of fucking shit.
Yeah.
You know, I think Nintendo just kind of wasn't putting as much effort, like because a lot of these like Rystar was published and developed by Sega.
Yeah.
You know, Dynamite Headdy was God, who was it?
Was that Sega?
I think Sega published it, but someone good made it. I'm gonna look it up real quick.
Was that Treasure?
I want to say it was Treasure. I feel like it was Treasure, and it was Treasure. Yeah, Sega published it. It was developed by Treasure. Totally wacky, weird game. Sega was putting a lot of effort into Mascot platformers.
Well, I think a lot of it is on Nintendo's platform. Nothing could compete with Mario.
True, yeah. And so I think a lot of it was, why bother? We'll make Zelda, we'll make Metroid, we'll make other stuff.
Right.
Why would we make more than one platformer?
Yeah.
And Sega was just trying to beat them, I guess, is as far as I can tell.
Trying to keep up with Mario at the very least, because Sonic, as we have said on the show many, many, many times, just it feels like it's not quite there. It's missing something that Mario has that would have made it a great game.
The good parts of Sonic are out of this world, stellar. The bad parts of Sonic are like, man, I can't believe they fucking put this out. And that's kind of been where I stand on Sonic from the beginning, all the way through to now. Yeah. I have to talk about the worst Mascot platformer. Well, I guess it's not a platformer. It's maybe a beat 'em up. But there's Batman Forever. I want to talk about this game.
Oh, God.
It's just some licensed fucking swill.
It's a claim
What
for
a
you.
piece of fucking shit, man.
They were pretty trash from the 16-bit era forward.
Yeah. Oh, Socks the Cat was another trash Super Nintendo one.
Well, it never came out, though.
Did it not come out?
No, it was advertised, but it never actually released.
What am I thinking of? I was trying to look up a list of like shitty ones. I feel like Super Nintendo had a higher concentration of shitty ones.
Yeah.
Most definitely compared to Genesis. A lot of the NES, like 8-bit platformers, a lot of them end up feeling really samey.
Yeah, very copy-paste.
They really struggle to stand out from one another in the 8-bit era.
Sometimes they stood out in the worst ways because their hit detection was bad or whatever.
Yeah, or they incorporated rock, paper, scissors as a core mechanic. Just stuff like that. But there was a lot of the 8-bit stuff is just really samey. I think if I were to be like, you want to try Mascot platforms, you want to try really good ones, and you've played Mario, you're done with it, whatever, I think Genesis is where I would say to start. It emulates well. A lot of the games on the system are still really cheap if you're a physical collector.
Yeah.
And it just kind of gets you into the genre pretty quick and easy.
Also, I feel like a lot of the developers on Super NES were carryovers from developers on the NES, and they had already kind of established themselves. They had these franchises they were just kind of iterating on from the NES. Whereas on the Genesis, you had a lot of these other developers that were locked out of Nintendo's environment due to licensing or whatever. And so they were a little more experimental and willing to try different things.
For people wanting to look at maybe the PS1, N64 generation, kind of want that little bit of evolution, maybe some collectathons. I again, Nintendo has some of the best ones, but PlayStation has a lot in this category. You've got Crocs. Gex was on PlayStation. I think it was also on N64. You've got Spyro and Crash, if you choose to count Crash.
Gex started on 3DO.
Oh, yeah, it did, didn't it?
Yeah, it was on 3DO first, and then it was on Saturn, and then it was on PlayStation.
They made so many more Gex games than they should have.
They made 3.
That's too many, Saturn.
Just the one is worth playing, by the way.
Yeah.
Don't play the second or third ones. Once it goes polygonal 3D, not worth it. Don't do it.
Yeah. So I think, again, it's the same kind of thing where Nintendo probably has some of the most celebrated ones.
Yeah.
But I think PlayStation has a wider variety of different stuff, and a lot of them feel really experimental.
Yeah.
I could even see, like, well, what would you call Jumping Flash?
I think it was an attempt to find what a 3D platformer was, and it failed.
I think in the same way that like Croc is kind of an attempt to figure out what a Mascot platform looks like on the system. So like,
another platform in addition to the Genesis is I would recommend checking out the TurboGrafx library, especially the import stuff, because there's a lot of weird platformers on there. So if you're looking for something that you probably haven't played, there's a lot of weird stuff on there.
Yeah, it's kind of the place to go for the weird shit. I was trying to think of some specific examples. I mean, you got all the bonks, which even though they're kind of the premier game on the system, they are fucking weird as shit.
Bravo Man.
So,
Pulse Man.
Yeah.
Which both of those are a little more actiony, but they're still at their core attempted Mascot platformers.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a shame that Johnny Turbo never made it into a game.
Yeah.
It's really the greatest shame. Anyway, let's talk legacy because Mascot platformers still exist. They're still going on.
Astrobot being the most prominent example right now.
Yeah, Mario's still making games.
Yep.
Sonic is not. I mean, I don't know what the fuck Sonic's doing. I can't figure it out. I have no idea.
That most recent game seems to be getting okay reviews. I've already forgotten its name.
I have too. I was just trying to think of it. And I wanted to be like Colors. I'm like, no, that's like a decade off. You're not even close. That's
no, there was the one that's kind of like Sonic Generations, but isn't Generations.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. I don't fucking know the name of the game.
Sonic Superstars.
Oh yeah. We see a lot of
at this point too.
We see a lot of stuff in the indie space. And this is what I was kind of talking about earlier in the show, which is games that kind of have that vibe, but are just sort of indie, and it's kind of like a joke that like they're a Mascot thing. Yeah. Like what comes to mind is very Genesis styled stuff like Freedom Planet 1 and 2.
Yeah,
feel very kind of like Sonic-y, I guess. You know,
we're also seeing a lot of meta games that kind of mock that era of Mascot platformers, and are still like decent enough platformers on their own. Yeah, most definitely. I was trying to think of a specific example. In the game The Hex, there's a in-game game that is a mocking Mascot platform. I don't remember what it's called anymore, but it's
the failed.
Yeah.
We see some smaller games. We see like Aglos was one that came out.
That was a good one.
I was gonna say the Always games, but those are more like puzzle platformers than really sort of Mascot.
Yeah,
Mascot platformers. You got Meat Boy. He's kind of a Mascot for the early indie darling 2012-ish kind of phase, along with Limbo.
Yeah,
Brave was
kind of a puzzle platformer, but it's not really a Mascot character though.
True. Not the way that Super Meat Boy kind of turned into.
Right.
Anyway, so like there are still examples. They still exist. We still see some weirder stuff. Like a Yooka-Laylee had come out a few years ago. You remember that one?
Yep.
There was the one with the fox that came out. Oh, it was the same kind of thing, but it was a fox.
Super Lucky's Tale?
Yeah, Super Lucky's Tale.
That's more of a collectathon, though.
Yeah, that's true. I think we've established that there's a pretty direct link between the two genres, though. So, like, Mascot platformers still exist.
Oh, yeah.
They're still a thing. A lot of them are more collectathon-y. I think even Yooka-Laylee was more collectathon-y.
I'm upset that we're not seeing more licensed and advertising Mascot platformers. I want to see a game with the Wendy's girl.
Colonel Sanders got I Love You, Colonel Sanders.
He did, but that was a dating sim, wasn't it?
It was a dating sim,
yeah, that's
but
hardly the same.
licensed games still. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I think people are more cynical now.
Yes.
Is part of it. I think we're just like, this is fucking stupid and it's an ad and we don't want it. I think also people are just fucking exhausted by all of and it's I think why we're so cynical is all of the different avenues by which companies are jamming things down our throats every second of every day. Because it used to be they couldn't really advertise to you as long as you were in your home and the TV was off. And that is no longer the case.
Yep.
You know, so sneaking Chester Cheetah into a platformer game was less insidious than it feels now.
Yeah, it used to be they had to stand outside your window and just shout about their advertisement to you. But now
they had to shout, Cheetos! What were those Cheetos that were shaped like little paws? Do you remember those?
They were just Cheetos paws, weren't they?
Was that what they were? I don't remember, but they were shaped like little cheetah paws, weren't they?
Yeah,
they were like little
Chester
paw
Cheetah's
shapes.
Paws.
I remember those were good. I like those ones.
I've never been a Cheetos person.
I like the crunchy Cheetos. Puffy Cheetos get all stuck in my teeth.
Yeah. They still make Cheetos Paws.
Do they really?
Yeah.
I guess I haven't had a name brand Cheeto in so long. I've been on the like off-brand cheese doodles for so many years that I can't say I've had a proper Cheeto in quite some time.
Yeah, apparently you can still get Cheetos Paws at the Walmarts.
As far as final thoughts, which is kind of what we're getting into, you should play some Mascot platformers. I highly recommend just kind of get a Genesis and play platformers. There's some really cool shit there. Obviously, if you haven't played Mario, then I'm kind of weirded out that you're even listening to the show. I can't imagine that anyone listening to the show has not played a Mario game. If you haven't, please go to Discord and tell us. I would love to speak to you. Someone with a genuine interest in retro gaming that has never played a Mario platformer game. That would be
for me. I'm
completely
just
insane.
I'm fascinated by this era of gaming, by just the weird throwing shit at the wall characters. Even the games that are bad, I like seeing how much effort they did or didn't put into it, because sometimes you could tell they did not even put half of their ass in there.
Right.
Other times you can tell they wanted this to succeed no matter how bad it was.
Like, as much as we want to shit on Bubsy, they really fucking wanted it to be a brand.
Yeah,
they were like, this is going to be the
3
thing.
games worth.
Yeah, they're like, this is going to be the next Sonic, the next Mario, the next cuddly, lovable Disney afternoon cartoon character. Like, it's going to happen for us.
Yeah.
And it just didn't.
Nope.
Just did not. Of course, now companies have one minor failure and they fucking ejector seat out of everything,
They
sell off all their assets
company.
and shoot off into fucking space.
Gotta make the investors
back then,
happy, Justin.
Back then, you had to live and die by your stupid decisions, so they had to make more than one Bubsy game.
And they just had to keep chasing it.
Yeah.
Surely they'll like them by the 3rd game.
You know who else keeps chasing it? Us on our Patreon. Patreon.com/Retro Warriors, where we're chasing your money. We want it. Give it to us, please. We don't want all of it. We're not like Ubisoft. We don't want all your money. We just want some of your money. Will you give us some of your money, please?
If you can spare all of your money, Justin,
if you want to give us all your money, I'll take it. I'm not going to lie to you. But if you want to give us some of your money, then we would like that. And we want to thank the following patrons for doing exactly that, starting with Extreme Ass Taco.
And Will and Angie.
Michael Cabetti.
Jose Rodriguez.
Rogue Mage.
Dink Cool.
Pawe Zelia. It fucked that up. It didn't parse it correctly.
Disc Raft.
Shane Lee.
Oh man, I cannot say any of this. This is not in my language.
I can't tell if this is a different language or if it's. I think it's different. All right, so I'm gonna try. Snoptomodjes Janine Lakari Gazandi Snack Mar Ook Herligic Vorin en Salade.
So I just dumped it into Google Translate. It is Dutch.
Oh.
And translated into English, it is: cherry tomatoes are a tasty, healthy snack, but also delicious in a salad.
Bullshit. I hate cherry tomatoes. They're the assholes of the tomato world. I don't know what it is.
In a risotto or in a spaghetti.
Barf. No. Gross. Don't like. Do not enjoy.
I don't mind cherry tomatoes. They're fine.
No, any of the small tomatoes can fuck off. Either be a grape or get out. just that's where I am on it. If you're going to be that size and that shape, you better be a fucking grape or get out of here.
Nah,
you're going to be a tomato, be a big tomato so I can slice you. Don't be a little baby tomato.
Tomatoes. I'll defend you, cherry tomatoes. I'm okay with
my daughter likes the various small tomatoes. They even have the audacity to name one of these tomatoes grape tomatoes. Excuse me.
Yeah, I'll get those sometimes.
No, thank you. Grotesque.
No.
What's weird is I like tomatoes. There's like a acidity concentration in the little baby ones that I can't. It's like I'm eating a battery.
Like the texture of full-size tomatoes unless they're cooked.
Guy just messaged and said, our Dutch listener is so mad right now. Look, man, I don't know what you thought was going to happen. And he's also sharing pictures of Cheetos paws, which, oh, God, they just look so chemically. I would eat the shit out of these. That is not a naturally occurring color of orange.
No.
Although Chester Cheetah has a little hat on. Has he always had that little white hat? Is that
I think that was a time-specific thing.
It's a period where they wanted to make him even cooler, so they gave him a fucking hat.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the show. We did it. We did it for you. Guy says that's 90s Chester Cheetah. He was in your face and radical.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks so much for listening. We'll be back next week. And as always, let us cling together.